So Netflix is coming out with their version of Totally Killer, right? Well, actually, Time Cut was shot prior to Totally Killer. They just so happen to coincidentally have very similar plots. So Time Cut is coming to Netflix today, and this sci-fi horror film is about a teenager who stumbles upon a time machine, travels back in time 20 years into the past, and must save her sister from a killer. I had a lot of fun with this one. I think Antonia Gentry and Madison Bailey have a lot of chemistry together. They're very believable as sisters, and I like that there's kind of this opposite personality going on between the two of them, but the two of them get along so well and have some very good chemistry on screen. I would say Totally Killer doesn't quite lack the connection, but there is a even closer connection here, because it's not like in Totally Killer she was going back to stop her mom's murder, but here you have a teenager traveling back to stop her sister's murder. So there's more of a connection here that I just really enjoyed, and I think Time Cut does very well. Also, another thing it does very well is it gets its setting completely right. Listen, it transported me back in time to my childhood when, listen, What's Love by Fat Joe was bumping. That's one of the needle drops, and there's so many great early 2000s needle drops in this movie. It really puts you back in the time period. There's Buffy posters, fat computer screens, like it just brings you back into that time and kind of makes your boy feel a little old. I'm like, man, that was 20 years ago. Oh my gosh, 20 years ago, I was all up in that. So that's crazy to think about, but really enjoyed how it depicted the time period through its fashion, through its song choices, and even through its colors. It's kind of pink and blue. The color palette really works for this, and I love how our future character, who's Madison Bailey's character, stands out in the crowd, because like, okay, people are like, why are you dressed that way? What's going on? Love that, and I love how she pulls an iPhone out of her pocket, and there's another character in the movie that's like, you must have had to pay like thousands of dollars for that thing. It just really works, and I really like the time travel element. They really mess with lore and do some unique things, in my opinion, with time and the way that time shifts and changes, and I really like some of the leaps they take with that. They take a swing with one time element in the movie that I really enjoyed. I don't want to spoil, but I really like that swing that they took, and it works for me. I really liked a lot of things about Time Cut. I think it's fun. I think it's, honestly, the runtime is perfect for this kind of movie. Hour 40, get us out of there. It works a lot. The characters work. There's a third character, a geeky character in this movie who works a lot as well. I think it just really works. It's really kind of reminds me a little bit of, like, not necessarily Fear Street in the killing and the gore, but in the style of that first Fear Street. Kind of reminds me of that, and I like that vibe. I like that sci-fi horror blend. I really like the time traveling element. Liked it a lot in Totally Killer, so I like it a lot here. But let me talk a little bit about the horror elements of this movie, because I think that's where maybe it comes up a little bit short. We know there's a killer, and it's not like there aren't slasher films before, but it just is kind of generic, plays out a little predictably, and I think it doesn't take the bold swings that it really could. Like, it doesn't get too gory and too over the top, and I think it could have really went there. I think we could have had some crazy kills, some bolder kills, as more and more slashers are returning to the forefront. I think there are a lot of ways where you can get creative with these things, and I think they just didn't take too many leaps. They stayed pretty safe, kept it pretty TV-14. So I would have loved to see some more leaps and bounds in the gore and the horror elements of this, which is weird to say that I liked everything, but didn't quite love the horror elements. I think that they could have just gotten scarier and had some more happen, but there are some decent kills in this one. I just think maybe we could have got a little more creative. Maybe the horror and gore could have just been a bigger part of it. But man, I like our three main characters. I like this mystery following us, trying to figure out who the killer is. But there's just a lot of predictability in its horror elements, and while the music drops are so good, the color palette is really good, and of course the traveling back in time and the fashion and everything, it really brought me back to my youth. I'm wondering how people in the Gen Z generation. Well, I mean, you have one Gen Z character. I guess people before the millennial generation, like Gen X, are they really gonna enjoy something like this? Probably not. I don't think the movie is really intended for that audience, but I'm just curious to see how people outside of that 2000s bubble, growing up in that bubble, how they're going to react to this. But man, this got your boy feeling old. Like, hey, I was born in 1993, so I was 11 when they travel back in time. I'm like, man. But guys, this was a fun one. I thought for a quick Netflix slasher movie, a sci-fi time travel, it worked. I don't necessarily want to compare it to Totally Killer because we're going back in the 90s or in the 80s in Totally Killer. Here we're going back to the 2000s. I think they both play out well to me, and I really like this blend of sci-fi and horror. I hope to see more time travel horror crossover movies. I think with seeing things like that, Freaky, those kind of movies, I really enjoy this kind of sci-fi element blended with horror. It just really works for me. But y'all gotta let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Are y'all anticipating Time Cut? I feel like I haven't seen that many trailers for it. Look, we saw one trailer and I'm like, Netflix, where's the promotion for these things? But y'all let me know your thoughts down in the comments. And hey, if you're new to the channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button down below and we'll see you next time on Geekly Goods.